Welcome back, and now I am joined by our special guest on News Review today, the Director of National AIDS Secretariat, Mr. Baji. Welcome to the Fatu Network News Review, sir.
Thank you.
This has been quite the week, I assume. This has caused quite the condemnation. It has attracted quite the condemnation from Gambian people. Walk us through what you meant and what you felt was taken out of context, and help us clarify.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be part of this program. As you know, December 1st is designated by WHO as World AIDS Day, and the day is commemorated by way of press briefings, conferences, and a host of other events. This year, because of the COVID situation, we decided to limit it to a press briefing and statements made by key partners and, of course, the health sector and the UN agencies. So it was in that context that we organized a press conference with the media fraternity in the Gambia. And the question about sex work followed after all of us made our statements, including myself. And the question was, the statistics that we gave indicated that among sex workers in the Gambia, HIV and AIDS is estimated at 11%. And it was a very genuine question because the guy was trying to compare that statistic with the general population, which is, according to the recent National Sentinel Surveillance, 1.5%. And he said, if that is the case, then what are you doing about that? Because then that particular group is considered as a high-risk group and a key driver for HIV in the Gambia, which is very true. And in response to that, we said in our provision of services relating to HIV and AIDS, we don't discriminate. We don't mind how you get the disease. So when we are reaching out with HIV services, we reach out to everyone with the objective of preventing and controlling the spread of HIV AIDS. So I went further to say we have done a lot of work in that regard, and usually health workers are sometimes provided. We reach out to them if it is sensitization, if it is treatment, if it is about support or care services. You can't leave them behind looking at the prevalence of HIV. So I indicated in my statement that in fact efforts are on the way to mobilize additional resources for the provision of support to people living with HIV, and this is nutritional support to people living with HIV and AIDS, including sex workers. But in that context, sex workers living with HIV and AIDS. This is not something new. It's something that the program was doing years back. We used to spend between $12 to $13 million annually to provide support. The idea is HIV is a lifelong treatment. When you are on medication on a daily basis, the medication requires that you are nutritionally fit to be able to be on that medication. So there are a few of them, even among those that live with the disease, who are unstable. They're not doing well even with the medication. And you need to support them nutritionally to be able to continue taking on the medication. So it was in that context that I said we are trying to mobilize additional resources to support people living with HIV who, even in that cohort, living with HIV but are unstable, then they need some sort of nutrition. And I said COVID has impacted almost everybody's livelihood and income, which is a fact. There is nobody who would say there is no sector in our society that was not affected by COVID-19. As a result, there are people who are struggling to make ends meet. We know very well that a lot of activities during the public emergency were halted. So it was in that context that I said the support that we intend to provide will go to those living with HIV, even if they are sex workers but they have the disease. We owe them that support to be able to prevent them from spreading the disease further, but also ensure that they live a healthy life.
Do you think this could have been avoided if people went beyond the headline? Because the headline made it very specific, talking about sex workers.
Yeah, so that's the bone of contention I had with the particular news outlet. And I said, in the first place, I did not mention in my statement that the NAS is going to use COVID funds. This is not COVID funds. National Aid Secretariat does not manage COVID-19 related funds. And so if you say sex workers to benefit from COVID funds, we know who are the targets as far as COVID funds are concerned. This is in the context of HIV. We were speaking as the coordinating authority for the response to HIV and AIDS. But given the fact that COVID has also impacted on the provision of services relating to HIV and AIDS, what else do we want to do differently? I quite agree. The uproar would have been lesser if the caption was not that sensational as it was carried by the particular news outlet.
It's also important to clarify where the NAS gets their funding from, because most of the subventions that you receive are not actually from government, they come from international organizations. Yeah. So I think it is important to also clarify that part.
Yeah, thank you very much. The HIV response is quite an expensive enterprise. And so, as far as I know, there is no developing country in the world, especially in this particular sub-Saharan region, that is solely funding its response to HIV and AIDS because of the cost. So in 2001, the world came together under the leadership of the United Nations to say we need a public-private partnership that can mobilize resources globally to be able to ensure investment in the response to HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. And that is the Global Fund. So since then, the Global Fund has been one of the most successful public-private partnerships as far as investment relating to HIV, malaria, and TB is concerned. So we mainly receive funding from the Global Fund to ensure that we provide services relating to HIV and AIDS, ranging from counseling and testing. And we don't limit ourselves to the public. We test anyone who we think is at risk of HIV and AIDS. So we also provide treatment. If you are found to be HIV positive, we link you to treatment and care. And this we do even with the sex workers. We provide them testing to make sure that at any point, if the program realizes you are positive, we take you to the clinic where the services are provided so that you take drug. The idea is to make sure you don't spread the disease to the public. And this is what we've been doing over the years as a coordinating authority and as mandated by the HIV and AIDS Control Act.
And of course, religious leaders have also jumped into the debate. They actually believe that your statement is a statement that is trying to promote prostitution into this country. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, thank you very much. I've received apologies from a few religious leaders who took up to their members to condemn me. I think on their part, some of them said they made a big mistake. I mean, Islam has laid down conditions for you to fulfill before you point an accusing finger to a fellow Muslim, especially if it is something to do with adultery. I've contacted a lot of scholars and they said, if you accuse somebody of adultery and it happens to be false, that sin is more than the adultery that you are trying to condemn. So I've forgiven all of them, like I said over the phone. I mean, if you go to the National AIDS Council, which serves as the board to the National AIDS Secretariat, we have the Supreme Islamic Council as a member of our board or the council, and we have the Christians Council as well. The idea, I was personally the one who made sure that those people are represented in council, and the idea is to make sure whatever we do is within our religious and cultural bounds, that we don't do anything that conflicts or that goes against our religious values and cultural values. And the Supreme Islamic Council has been a very key partner. We've had a couple of engagements on HIV and AIDS. So it's unfortunate that from a religious point of view, the issue was not fully analyzed and there were no attempts to make inquiry as required by Islam So it was taken from the newspaper to the mimbar, and different interpretations were given. Let me say this. Apart from that religious aspect of the situation, there is also another dimension of it, just to say how much that issue has been misinterpreted by the public and the different stakeholders. The American embassy, for instance, when they read the article, they were concerned, and their concern was it is a sort of resemblance, it resembles trafficking in person. So for them, when they read the article, they were concerned that it has some element of trafficking in person. But they did not stop there. They did not only read the article and then stay in their office or do something else. They came to the Secretariat. It's the only institution that walked into our place to find out more information about the issue. And I think I commend them very well for that. So when we explain, they maybe, I don't know, maybe they're still investigating, but at least we provided a response and some details about what we do. That is commendable. I think our society should make attempt to research and find out before forming opinions about things that are especially reported in the media also. And
talking about the response of the different stakeholders, you've also mentioned that you believe this whole issue was politicized. How so? Yeah, I mean, I'm not pointing at a particular political camp, but it is an open secret that a lot of audios, you know, were shared with different people, you know, reacting in a different way as far as the issue at hand is concerned. I want to make it equivocally clear that the government never, ever provided funds to the NAS to support sex work or sex workers in this country. So some people were looking at it from that angle. Of course, the funds that are coming from the Global Fund comes through to support government's effort in its development agenda. But we have not received any funding from government to say, this is how we want you to support sex work or sex workers in the Gambia. So I was saying it was highly politicized from that angle because, I mean, different camps were interpreting it differently, and it has created that confusion in the general public. Thank you very much, Mr. Baye, Director of National AIDS Secretariat. Thank you very much for coming through to the Fatu Network News Review and clarifying what you actually meant initially. Thank you very much for coming. It's my